So, hello guys, welcome, bonjour, moin moin, ciao kak bang. Hello everybody, Привет. Guys, we are on the famous street or walking street here in Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City. What we're going to be doing today, well, one, it's not very busy like it usually would be because we're currently undergoing a third wave of cases here in Vietnam. Luckily in Saigon there's only been one case in the past 2 weeks, but throughout Vietnam there's been a few more, especially up north. So what we're going to be doing today is talking about this walking street, a little bit of the history about it, because there's a lot of history going from all the way back to it being essentially having a market and being a canal, and then being changed into a boulevard by the French, and then after that being changed into the walking street that we see today. So guys, what we're gonna do first, well, what we're gonna talk about first is the Ho Chi Minh, or the People's Committee of Ho Chi Minh, is this building right in front of us, or also known as the City Hall of Ho Chi Minh. So let's get a little closer and talk about its history. All right, so guys, now we've gotten a little closer, and let's go over a little bit more of the history of the People's Committee of Ho Chi Minh, this building that we have right in front of us. Obviously right here we have a statue of Ho Chi Minh himself, and just obviously in remembrance of Ho Chi Minh. But this building here was actually constructed in the early 1900s, around 1902 to 1908, and it's obviously, you can tell by its architecture, it's very French colonial style of architecture. And so when it was first created, it was built as the city hall for what was once known as Saigon. People still obviously call Ho Chi Minh Saigon, but formally the city is called Ho Chi Minh now. And same here with this building, it is now called the People's Committee of Ho Chi Minh. All right guys, so we've got the People's Committee of Ho Chi Minh behind us. Now let's jump, before we jump into the Opera House, which I'm gonna go over the history about the Opera House here in just a second. We're gonna go about the history about this walking street in general, going even further back than these buildings that we see. So before this was even a walking street, it was a canal, and it was called the Kinh Lon Canal. And there used to be a lot of silk vendors. From what I could read up, there were a lot of Chinese vendors and silk vendors and a bunch of other types of vendors. And this canal would run into the Saigon River. Then in 1861, once the French actually conquered Vietnam, or Saigon at that point, the French had renamed it to Charner, so the Canal Charner. And it continued to be a canal for a few more years after that. And so in 1887, we got a little bit of noise going on. In 1887, the French actually filled up the canal and created it as a tramway, a connection to two parts of the city. And yeah, and that completely changed it. From there, it was no longer the canal with the bridges crossing those canals. It was filled in for this tramway. So, and here we have the Saigon Opera House. And as you can tell, the architecture is very French colonial. It was built in 1898. And as you can see, it's quite ornate. It still is being used today, but a few fun facts about it is actually in 1943, they took off some of the statues and some of the decorations that they had on the building because they thought it was a little too ornate and too pompous, essentially. But they actually restored a little bit of those decorations and those statues later on for its 300th anniversary. And yeah, here it is today. Obviously, it's not open now because of, as I said, we're going through a third wave. But it is beautiful on the inside as well, and it can seat just about 500 people. Before we start talking a little bit more about the history of Nguyen Hue Walking Street, we're gonna look at the Rex Hotel. And the Rex Hotel was built in 1959, but now what it looks like is completely different from what it looked like back then. They've done a lot of renovations to it, and it looks very, very different. Continuing on with the history of this walking street, as I said before, it was obviously the French who transformed it into a tramway station and then into a boulevard. So boulevard Charner, excuse me. And it wasn't until 1956 where they changed the name of the boulevard, or boulevard Charner, to Nguyen Hue Street, which is what it's called today, the Nguyen Hue Walking Street. And it wasn't officially a complete pedestrian walking street until April of 2015. So it's very recent that they've changed it from a busy boulevard to a busy, well, not very busy now because of certain events going on, but a not so busy at the moment pedestrian walking street. So now we're going to go over a little bit of this building that you can see right behind me, which is one of the apartment blocks here. It's called 42, well, the address is 42 Nguyen Hue Street, and it has quite an interesting history. So we can look up and down, and you can see that it's just full of a bunch of different restaurants and cafes. So this place was actually constructed in the 1960s, and at the beginning of that time, it housed a lot of American military officials and a lot of officials of the once southern Vietnamese government. After the fall of Saigon, though, it was given to a lot of shipyard workers, and they were then living here in this building. What ended up happening is that a lot of the tenants started renting these places out to these businesses. And there's kind of a gray line where it's not technically legal, and there's always notices of evictions, which could possibly happen any day. That may have changed in recent years. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it definitely has very, very interesting history. But you can go up. A lot of times people just go up by the stairs. You can take the elevator for a very small fee. I think it's like 3,000 or 5,000 dong, which is less than 50 cents USD. And there are a lot of very, very cool tea shops, coffee shops, and restaurants up there. So it's an absolute must visit when you're here on Nguyen Hue Street, the walking street of Saigon. And to finish things off with a little more recent history, we're going to go over a little bit about the Patexco Financial Tower, which is right here. And this tower was built in 2010, or finished in 2010. And at that time, it was the tallest building in Vietnam. But it's now been overpassed by a few other buildings, and is now only the second largest building of Saigon. The tallest being Landmark 81, which we'll go visit sometime in another video. But now it's the 5th tallest building in Vietnam. But, hello! But its architecture was really renowned. Sorry, we've got a child running around here. But yeah, so the architect was a really renowned architect from Venezuela, but who lives in New York City. And he gathered or got design, or the design essentially, from Vietnam's national flower, which is the lotus flower. And yeah, it got a lot of awards and is a really cool looking tower. So there you guys have it. We are currently leaving Nguyen Hue Walking Street here right behind us and heading into the city of District 1 here in Saigon. So thank you guys for watching. I will be here in Saigon for another month or two at least. And I'm thinking of doing some more historical content and maybe meeting some people who speak French here in Saigon. That would be really interesting, and to go over more of the French history here in Saigon. So let me know what you guys think about that. And I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you already have liked and subscribed, thank you very much. And with that being said, guys, I'll see you next time. To everyone around the world, depending on where you are, bonne journée, bonne soirée. Have a good evening, good morning. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. So, ciao, ciao. Takedown.